Welcome, horror lovers. I'm Pete, and today we're going to embark on a journey through some of the darkness. If you're new here, subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss any terrifying stories. The Japanese legend of the Kiyotake Tunnel is a horror story involving a real location in Japan, known for its history of mysterious and frightening events. The tunnel, located in the city of Kiyotake in Miyazaki Prefecture, was opened in 1914 and became famous not only for its function in transportation, but also for being involved in several supernatural stories. Over the years, the tunnel has gained notoriety among locals and tourists as one of the most haunted places in Japan, and the legend surrounding it is quite chilling. The Kiyotake Tunnel was built during the Meiji era, a time when Japan was rapidly modernizing, with railways being established throughout the country. The tunnel was designed to assist in the transport of goods and passengers through the Kiyotake region. However, the construction of the tunnel was marked by many setbacks and difficulties, with reports of accidents and deaths during the work. There are various versions of the incidents that occurred during the construction, but the most common version speaks of workers who died while building the tunnel, especially due to rock collapses and the hazardous working conditions. These fatal accidents are said to have left restless spirits at the site, creating a supernatural aura around the tunnel. The supernatural story associated with the Kiyotake Tunnel centers around the spirits of dead workers and other inexplicable phenomena. The legend suggests that due to the large number of lives lost during its construction, many of these workers could not find peace and became yurei, vengeful Japanese spirits. According to the legend, these spirits remain in the tunnel, seeking revenge or trying to complete the tasks they began during their lives. This results in various supernatural manifestations that can be seen by those who enter the tunnel at night or during moments of great spiritual tension. The legend describes several phenomena that have occurred inside the Kiyotake Tunnel, which continue to be reported by visitors to this day. 1. Strange sounds. One of the most common features of the legend is the sound of footsteps or knocks coming from inside the tunnel, especially at night. Many people who have walked through the tunnel, either during the day or at night, have heard inexplicable sounds, as if someone were behind them or approaching, but when they look, no one is present. 2. Ghostly visions. In some versions of the legend, visitors have reported seeing spectral figures or shadows moving in the tunnel. Some accounts speak of indistinct shapes or figures wearing old clothing, possibly resembling the type of uniform worn by workers during the construction period. These ghosts are described in a chilling manner, with pale faces or expressions of pain and suffering. 3. Disorientation and loss of time. There are also reports of people entering the tunnel and losing their sense of time, emerging with a feeling that time has passed in a strange or unrecognizable way. Some claim that when they cross through the tunnel, they end up in a different, farther place than expected, as if the tunnel were a kind of portal. 4. Chill and nervousness. Many people who visited the tunnel at night said they felt an inexplicable sense of cold, an oppressive and deeply nervous atmosphere. Some described a feeling of discomfort, as if they were being watched by something invisible or as if something was about to happen. The story of a personal tragedy. One of the most dramatic versions of the Kiyotake Tunnel legend involves a specific worker who, according to the story, died tragically during the tunnel's construction. He was a young worker who was at the site when a rock collapsed and killed him, leaving his spirit trapped in the tunnel. Some say that this particular worker's spirit is the most active at the site and that he seeks revenge against those who dare to pass by, especially if he feels they are disrespecting the place where he died. In some versions of the legend, it is said that this spirit can manifest aggressively, especially if someone tries to make a joke or mock the tunnel's history. This adds an element of tension, as there is a local belief that if you don't show respect, or if you enter the tunnel with an irreverent attitude, something bad may happen. The tunnel today. Currently, the Kiyotake Tunnel is no longer used for railway transportation, as it has been replaced by new tunnels and roads. However, the old tunnel still exists and is frequently visited by tourists and ghost hunters, eager to experience the mysterious atmosphere that surrounds the place. For those who venture to visit the tunnel, there is a mix of excitement and fear. Some approach with the hope of witnessing supernatural phenomena, while others prefer to keep their distance, fearing what might happen within the tunnel's darkness. Even for skeptics, the Kiyotake Tunnel maintains a certain air of mystery and a sense of unease that makes the legend all the more captivating. The Kiyotake Tunnel is a place that blends real history with supernatural myth, creating a legend that continues to haunt those who dare to visit it. The idea that spirits of dead workers still wander the tunnel is a reflection of Japan's rich tradition of stories about vengeful spirits and belief in the spiritual world. Thus, the Kiyotake Tunnel remains a fascinating location for those seeking to explore Japan's more mysterious side, while serving as a reminder of human tragedy and the spirits that may remain trapped at the places of their deaths. The legend of Teke Teke is a terrifying story with many versions, but all share the same tragic and mysterious core. It is closely linked to the figure of Yurei, which are the spirits of people who died violently or prematurely and could not rest in peace. Like many other legends in Japan, this story was likely created to explain inexplicable phenomena and to teach lessons about the dangers of the night and solitude. Many years ago, a young woman, often described as a student or worker, was traveling alone at night. In some versions, she is returning from school or work, while others say she was just walking. She didn't know it, but she was about to experience a tragedy. On her way, she passes near a train track. For some reason, she ends up falling onto the railway. Perhaps she was pushed, or the accident happened due to a moment of distraction. A train approaches at full speed and the young woman has no time to escape. The train runs over her, cutting her body in half. The accident is horrifying, and the young woman dies, but not in the peaceful way one would expect. She is filled with immense pain, and before dying, feels a terrible sense of despair. After the tragedy, the young woman's soul cannot find peace. Her spirit becomes a yurei, a vengeful ghost, fueled by the anger and pain of her violent death. She begins to transform into the terrifying figure of Teke Teke. As a spirit, Teke Teke no longer has the lower half of her body. Instead, she drags herself along the ground using her arms, which creates a peculiar and frightening sound. Teke Teke, Teke Teke, the sound she makes as she drags herself. This sound is one of the main signs of her presence and is the origin of the spirit's name. The legend of Teke Teke says that, at night, the spirit chases those who cross her path. She often targets victims who are alone or in isolated places, far from the safety of others. Teke Teke's goal is to frighten, and in some versions, she even aims to cut her victims in the same way she was cut, in a cruel and violent manner. The legend says that when Teke Teke finds a victim, she may approach silently, making the characteristic tek teke sound. When the victim hears this sound, they may become frightened, and often, without realizing it, begin to approach. This is a fatal mistake, as this is when the spirit attacks, often with a knife or even other sharp objects. It is said that Teke Teke cuts the person in a way similar to her own fate, leaving the victim in a situation similar to hers. In some versions of the legend, Teke Teke is not just looking to kill. She is seeking revenge against anyone who crosses her path, as a way to make others share in the pain and suffering she experienced when she died. Her vengeful spirit prevents her from resting in peace, and she continues to hunt at night for souls to torment. Additionally, there is a version where, before attacking her victims, Teke Teke asks for help. She calls out to people to approach, usually with a soft, normal voice, asking for assistance. But when someone comes near, she reveals her true form and attacks. This trick makes her even more dangerous, as victims can be deceived by her apparent vulnerability. Teke Teke is one of the most well-known ghost stories among students and young people in Japan. The legend is often shared in schools and among youth groups, especially at night when people tend to talk about scary things. The story has a strong psychological impact, as it makes people reflect on the danger of walking alone at night, particularly in isolated places like train tracks or empty streets. Like other Japanese urban legends, the story of Teke Teke is also used to warn people about the importance of being alert and respecting the unknown. The legend has been passed down from generation to generation and is often used as a story to frighten children or to keep teenagers aware of the risks of the night and solitude. The Teke Teke sound that the character makes as she drags herself has become an icon of this legend, and some versions of the story include the sound as a way to characterize other ghosts or spirits in different stories. Furthermore, Teke Teke has inspired several adaptations in films, comics, and even video games, keeping the story alive in Japanese popular culture and beyond. This legend, like many other ghost stories from Japan, contains elements of pain, revenge, and the desire for justice, but it also speaks about a spirit's inability to rest when its death was not resolved properly. It is both a warning and a reflection on the power of tragic events and the consequences they can have on people's lives, and even on the generations that follow. The legend of the Kuchisake Onna is a popular horror story in Japan. It is one of the most well-known urban legends and has many versions, but all share elements of mystery, fear, and a supernatural presence. The story is generally told to warn people, especially children, about the dangers of unexpected encounters at night. The legend of Kuchisake Onna is typically set in an urban or suburban environment, often in a quiet area where people might be alone or unprotected, such as in sparsely populated streets or while returning from school. The story begins with a mysterious woman who suddenly appears with strange behavior. In some versions of the legend, she is described as a young and beautiful woman, but with a very unusual and disturbing smile. She wears a surgical mask, something common in Japan for health reasons, or a scarf to cover her mouth, so her true appearance is hidden. The origin of Kuchisake Onna varies in different versions, but the most common and popular one involves a tragic event from the past. In one of the more well-known versions, she was a woman who lived in ancient times. She was married to a very jealous man who, for some reason, believed she was being unfaithful. Driven by anger, he attacked his wife, cutting her from ear to ear in a cruel manner, leaving her mouth permanently disfigured. In some versions, she was a woman of exceptional beauty who became the victim of immense envy, either from her husband or someone else who rejected her. Her face was mutilated to the point that it looked as though she had a smile from ear to ear. As a result of this violence, the woman died, but her soul did not find peace. Instead, she transformed into a vengeful spirit known as Kuchisake Onna, or the slit-mouthed woman. The legend of Kuchisake Onna revolves around mysterious and terrifying encounters with her, especially at night. She often appears on the street, approaching people who are alone. When someone encounters her, she usually starts a conversation, asking a simple and harmless question. Do you think I'm beautiful? Or, do you think I'm beautiful now? If the person answers yes, she removes her mask or scarf, revealing her mouth slashed from ear to ear with a grotesque smile that makes her even more terrifying. She then asks again, and now, do you still think I'm beautiful? If the person answers no, she may attack them, often with a knife or some other cutting object, leaving a wound similar to her own, or even killing the victim. If the person answers yes again, the woman may attack anyway, because for her, no one can ever see her deformity without feeling fear. In some versions, there is a way to escape Kuchisake Onna. One of the most common ways to avoid her attack is to respond vaguely or confusingly to her question. Instead of saying yes or no, the person might reply with something like, "It depends," or "You're more beautiful with the mask." This causes the woman to become confused for a moment, and the time needed for that confusion could be the opportunity to escape. Another solution involves throwing something, like candy or coins, which in some versions is seen as a distraction that she cannot resist. Kuchisake Onna is a legend that inspires both fascination and fear. It was popularized in the 1970s and 1980s, but the story dates back much earlier, with variations that place it in different historical periods. The legend also reflects Japan's social and cultural fears, particularly anxiety over physical appearance and ideals of beauty. The face of Kuchisake Onna, with its deformity, is a symbol of how obsession with appearance and social aspects can become dangerous and destructive. Like other urban legends, the story of Kuchisake Onna has been passed down as a way to frighten, but also to teach lessons. It warns of the dangers of unexpected encounters and highlights the terror of a figure who seems normal and harmless at first, but actually hides something much darker and more dangerous. The legend of Kuchisake Onna has also been adapted into films, TV shows, and other media, maintaining its popularity over the years. It continues to be one of the scariest stories in Japanese culture, and its message persists. You never know who or what might be hiding under a mask or behind an outwardly normal appearance. What did you think of this? Do you have any legend suggestions? Leave it in the comments. Thank you for watching.